Welcome to the 22nd lesson of SmartKnitter, Knit Instructions Level 2. We will explore the feeder properties in this lesson with various examples. In the first example, we have a tubular jacquard and we need to have the edges closed. In the translation setting, under Jacquard option, select Auto Close Edge for tubular jacquard. Translate. You can see the front and back yarns are knitting in the opposite needle bed to close the edge. The outermost front stitch is changed to back stitch instead. This might cause the edges to be shown in the garment, and it is not ideal. Let's go back to SmartGraph and fix this. Go to Feeder Setup, bring the feeder knitting the back color to the front, and use the feeder at the back to knit the front color. Uncheck Auto Close Edge for tubular jacquard at this time. Translate again. Feeder 3 is knitting the front stitches and Feeder 2 is knitting the back stitches. The yarns will cross at the knitting edges, thus closing them without knitting an actual stitch. Let's look at the next example. This is a panel with 2x1 ribs with partial knitting for slit. There are two zones separating the partial knitting sections. Upon translation, we can see the partial knitting sections are linked by tucks. Go back to SmartGraph and edit the feeder setup. To make a completely separated partial knitting sections, we need the two feeders set in different property. Instead of setting both as partial knit feeder, one of the feeders should be set to normal. Translate again, and now there is no tuck linking the sections. Move on to File 3. This is a panel with plating. In Feeder Setup, we can see plating is done in Zone 1-3. Upon translation, we can see that the carriage cannot take the feeder at row 2956. The file is not translated successfully. There are a lot of floats in the neckline area. Back to SmartGraph, go to Feeder Setup. For neckline knitted using single feeder set on both sides, all feeders must have the same properties. Set the Zone 2 feeder to with plaited yarn and drag the new feeder symbol to the appropriate slot. Translate again, and we can see Feeder 3 and 5 knit the two neckline sections separately and brought away after finished. In the next example, we have a panel with 1x1 ribs and narrowing. Translate the original file. We can see the software warn us of Feeder 4 clashing. This is because Feeder 4 is brought in between the needle transfer actions. Back to SmartGraph and go to Feeder Setup. We have to set the feeder 4 as partial knit feeder. Feeder clashing warning is now resolved. Let's look at the last example. In this example, we have multiple panels in the same file and would like to knit them continuously. After setting up the feeders for front panel, save the setting and go back to Feeder Setup, and we could copy the setting to other panels. As you can see, back panel is using front panel's feeder setup. For the sleeve, as we do not need feeder 4, we could set it to virtual feeder. As we've set feeder 4 as virtual feeder, it is brought in to be secured as if it will be used later on. This is done because feeder 4 is used in front and back panels, and we might not want to remove the yarn before knitting the sleeve. By doing so, yarn in feeder 4 won't be released accidentally when knitting the sleeve panel and will be brought away after securing the yarn. If we want to have the sleeve knitted in plated duo feeder, right-click on both feeders and set them as plated feeder, and drag the new feeder symbol to the appropriate slot. Let's translate and see the result. Feeder 1, Feeder 3-5, Feeder 6, Feeder 4 are brought in from the left to secure the yarns in the setup section. This marks the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.